The learning theory that I chose to work with for this post is the adult learning theory. The reason why I chose this is because as I was watching the videos for this module, it really sparked my interest because a lot of the things that this learning theory is trying to deal with are things that I actually see in my students at the junior and senior level in high school. And so as I was learning about it, I found an article entitled Adult Online Education, Investigating Learning Theories and Their Application to Distance Learning. And they mentioned that this theory of adult learning theory is a portion or a part of the humanist learning theory. And one of the tenets of that is that it, and I quote, causes lifelong personal growth and development. And I do see that idea that the students sort of need to be convinced that it is valuable to learn the topic and that it will benefit their future, so that they'll be willing to spend the time learning it. It's almost as if we don't convince them that they need to know it, that they refuse to learn it. Perhaps older children and adults are not very different in that regard. That same article feels that one of the strengths of this learning theory is that it gives the adults the greater ability to control their learning, which is a huge benefit. And which, in my opinion, if we allow them that ability to be more in control, that they will there will perhaps be more students that are involved in taking the course, or even more likely, probably those students would be more likely to complete the course, which is, of course, a benefit. In an article written by Argode, Briger, and McLean, they mentioned that this theory focuses on the genuine application, and this is rooted in real-life discussions, and that these discussions can be an incredibly powerful way of learning. But on the flip side, that same article mentions a weakness that I actually read in several different articles, and that this theory puts way too much emphasis on the sameness of adult learners. And this is unfortunate because in recent years, or in quite a few years actually, we've been seeing the focus on differentiated learning and focusing on making sure that the children are being taught in different ways. And yet, if we then we assume that everyone just becomes the same as they age. And this I see as unfortunate because, of course, we all know that we're so different, and we need to teach adults in acknowledging the differences that they face. So one of the articles that I read by Halpern and Tucker had some fantastic ideas about ways to incorporate this theory into their article was specifically on creating online tutorials, which is actually something that I will need to do in the next coming year. And so they had 4 principles that use this theory. The first 2 are sort of linked because they both deal with connecting those lessons or tasks to a real problem that's to be solved, one that's relevant, that may focus on solving that task rather than just listening to a lecture about how you could solve the task. And I see that this class is actually set up that way. So rather than listening to people, we get to do this task. And I think that's kind of exciting. The third principle focuses on the idea that adults have had prior experiences and that these experiences should guide the learning process. But they also mention that this can be a weakness because it's hard when you're doing this distance. But for me, I'm not going to be doing it distance. It's just going to be a self-paced tutorial for teachers as they're trying to learn skills that we need them to learn. And so I feel like this prior experience is really important because it allows teachers to not have to sit through something they already know, which I think is important. And then the fourth principle is connected because it encourages that the teachers be able to be self-directed. And this I see as valuable as well because they can capitalize on the things that they need to learn and they aren't wasted. Time isn't wasted on things that they already know.